Okie dokie, you're on.
Okay, hi everybody, good morning. As Pei has already introduced me, I'm actually sitting here in the Indian Himalayas, north of Delhi, about 12 hours by road north of Delhi. And it's, early morning, very frosty outside. I can see the snow settled all over the mountains. It's full on winter here. So there we go. I'm already Thursday, 6th of February, talking to you yesterday evening. It's kind of fun because this topic about Bosnia and about the work I've been doing with Bosnia involves a lot of interpretation of the meaning of time, which is where Ibrahim and I have been communicating in quite some detail over the past couple of years now, and delving deeper into the meaning of time on many, many different layers. But I'll be getting into that topic at our next discussion in March. But for now, today, I wanted to introduce you to the Bosnian pyramids, because if I just get straight into my interpretation of the Bosnian pyramids, you won't know what I'm talking about. And then it'll be very difficult for you to follow my interpretation of them. So what I thought is today, I'm going to take you on a tour around the Bosnian pyramids, discuss the information that's been discovered there, and also what is currently going on, what's already been discovered, what's currently going on, and projections for the future. So with that, I'll start my presentation of meeting the Bosnian pyramids. So to start with, a little bit about Bosnia. Now, when I talk about the history of Bosnia, we're talking about the standard history as far as our school books are concerned, as far as the status quo is concerned, and as far as academics, historians, archaeologists, etc., around the world are satisfied with. Now, that may have seemed like a very funny thing to say when talking about history, because we've kind of got a standard notion that history is fact, and that's how it is. But when it comes to Bosnia, all this seems to change. So what do we know about Bosnia? Well, Bosnia, as it stands today, is an independent state in the Balkan region of Southeast Europe. It's not currently part of the EU, European Union, although they have applied for membership several years ago, I think around 2016, but their application hasn't yet been approved. It's also been a landing place for a lot of migrants from the Middle East, Syria and other places, Syria recently, of course, and other places in the Middle East, and further east like Pakistan and Afghanistan. A lot of people make their way across to Europe and tend to land in Bosnia as a first port of call before trying to get into the European Union. And in fact, a lot of migrants have been stopped at the Croatian border. The mountain is a very large mountain range between Bosnia and Croatia, Croatia being one of the first European Union countries in the Balkans. And it's been a very difficult problem for Bosnia itself, because a lot of migrants are now sitting in camps in various parts of Bosnia, living in terrible conditions. I mean, out in the forest, literally living in squalor. It's one of the places where they have been receiving quite a lot of relief and support, not just because the majority of people in Bosnia are Muslim and the majority of migrants are Muslim, so there's an affinity in that sense, but there's been a general care and service providing offered by local people. Bosnian people tend to be very nice, very hospitable, very, in that sense, that makes them more Eastern than European. In general, it's a very interesting mix between Western culture and an Eastern culture. And that goes way back to the Neolithic, populated by Illyrian people. Illyrian people are Indo-European origin. And they were also populated by Celts that came from the north, from Germany and the other parts of Europe. So by the 1st century AD, Christianity came, and then by the 4th century, it became part of the Western Roman Empire. Germanic tribes invading the country after that and taking over. And by the 6th century, Slavic people had settled there, and Bosnia started to flourish as its own kingdom, right up until the 15th century. Now, one of the interesting things that happened at that time was the influx of the Bogomils. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Bogomils. It's a kind of small sect of Gnostic people who didn't believe in Christianity per se, but in the early teachings of Christ before it became a religious organization. They repudiated many of the Christian ideologies and were definitely a separate sect. They were persecuted quite badly in other parts of Eastern Europe, like Bulgaria, where it's thought they principally came from after they migrated from Eastern areas. And eventually, it's thought that they amalgamated into the Cathars of southern France by the 11th, 12th century. So they had to go into hiding a lot of the time. They were a kind of sort of considered like a bit of a cult. But anyway, they settled in Bosnia, and very happily so, and it became state religion there. And in fact, I'm going to show you some photos later. There are some nice Bogomil castles around and about in different parts of Bosnia. So from the mid 15th to the late 19th century, the Ottoman Turks came, and I mean, this was a has had a very, very big influence on the culture there. And you'll see it all over Bosnia now, with the type of cuisine they eat, the sort of coffee they drink, and the influence of Islam, the Turkish baths that you'll find in Sarajevo and other parts of Bosnia. But then by the late 19th century, the Austro-Hungarian Empire took over until the end of World War I, when Bosnia was amalgamated into the former Yugoslavia, which was dissolved by 1992. And then Bosnia was part of this terrible war that ensued for a number of years in the Balkan region until 1995, which had a devastating effect on every part of the country, whether it's societal, cultural, personal. Every family in Bosnia has a story, and to be honest, the scars, the wounds are still very, very prevalent in the psychology and the trauma of the people who lost so many family members and had such a difficult time being besieged in cities and starved to death almost. One whole season in Sarajevo, the entire population was in lockdown in Sarajevo, and the stories that the people tell you are just absolutely horrific. But of course, when there's terrible things happen, also great courage appears, and there are lots of stories of great hero acts and people really coming together as a community to help each other and to get through this terrible situation that occurred there. So that was back in the 90s. Then in 2005, Dr. Sam Osmanagich, who is a Bosnian national himself, although he moved to the USA during the 90s, in the early 90s, before the war started, after the collapse of the former Yugoslavia. He was out in Visoko. Visoko is a small valley about 25 kilometers north of Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, Sarajevo. And he was out there one day, not looking for pyramids, but he had been studying pyramids all around the world up to that point. He'd been visiting, he visited the Central American pyramids, the South American pyramids, the pyramids in China. He'd raised awareness of pyramids that are all over Europe, in different countries, definitely in Italy and in different areas of like the Gran Canary Islands, also Tumulus, many in the UK, and other places. And he'd been other places in the world as well, where you wouldn't imagine pyramids to be. He'd been raising awareness of these, in also pyramids in the USA as well. So he was kind of, his eye was tuned to see pyramids. And while he was out at Visoko that day, actually visiting the local museum, he saw this huge pyramid behind the town of Visoko. And, he goes, this must be a pyramid. And so he started testing whether it could be a pyramid. Now, I'm going to get into that in a minute, because there are 9 reasons that he came up with why this was definitely a pyramid. And there are some very specific measurements that he took to come to that end. So in 2006, he created a non-for-profit foundation, the Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation, and then large-scale excavations began. Well, I say that, but he had some difficulty right from the start. Even the local people in Bosnia, the local archaeologists from the from the University of Sarajevo, seemed to be very, very against the project, and they wanted to forbid him to start digging on the pyramid. And so they wrote petitions to the government saying, please stop this project, and blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't as if Sam was even trying to get money out of the government. He was using all his personal funds to do this. And so it's quite strange at this point why they should have been so adverse to the idea of starting this project. Anyhow, the president of Bosnia himself came along, and he saw that definitely the blocks that they'd already uncovered on the pyramid were definitely artificial. And he also saw that lots and lots of people were getting attracted to this. And he said to Dr. Sam, he said, keep going. I mean, this is definitely, from what I see, an artificial structure. And it's attracting lots of people, which is good for our war-torn society. So keep on going, keep on going. And so he did. Now, I mentioned here at the bottom, this is a world history changing theory. So we come back to the archaeologists in Bosnia. Why were they so against the project? It wasn't just the archaeologists in Bosnia, but as soon as he started excavating and the project got some media coverage around the world, a lot of other academics, whether historians or archaeologists, just started criticizing the project. The one reason why Sam believes that this is so is because it challenges our current understanding of history as we know it today. Why? Because they were able to radiocarbon date the Pyramid of the Sun and the complex in general at around 30,000 years old. How did they do that? They found fossilized leaves imprinted inside some of the concrete blocks, and the radiocarbon dating on that proved to be of this age. I mean, 30,000 years old. This is when, purportedly speaking, Europe was under an ice age, and we were in Europe running around living in caves and things. And the standard academics, historians, archaeologists, etc., do not want to believe that there may be a completely different history of our world. And this is something that comes up again and again in Bosnia, is what is the real history of the world? If this kind of technology and this kind of machine, as it's been deduced that it may be, was available at this time, then what is our standard history talking about? Having us sitting in caves and all the rest of it. I'll come into that later as well, because there's a lot more to discuss on that point. So 5 pyramids have been discovered so far. The Pyramid of the Sun was the first. So Sam was standing on the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, which is over 220 meters tall. Just to put it into perspective, the Pyramid of Giza, the largest pyramid of Cheops at Giza, is 147 meters tall. So this is really, really tall. And because they're not sure where the base actually goes down to, the Pyramid of the Sun itself is a hill. It's a hill shape just behind the town of Visico. So where the base actually starts could be right down in the town, or a little bit further up on the side of the hill, on the side of the hill. So it's not sure whether it was extended out of a natural hill or whether it was completely made from scratch. This they're not sure yet. So it may be even taller than that after further investigations. The Pyramid of the Moon, which stands opposite the valley of Visico, it stands at 190 meters tall, which is still taller than the Pyramid at Giza. And it's very interesting, has an interesting relation with the Pyramid of the Sun, in that in the summertime, the Pyramid of the Sun, when it sets, leaves its shadow exactly over the Pyramid of the Moon. So the sun is setting, if you imagine, the sun is setting behind you on the Pyramid of the Sun, excuse me, and so it's leaving the shadow exactly covering the Pyramid of the Moon. It's a very interesting phenomenon, this. The Pyramid of the Dragon is another one of the main pyramids, 90 meters tall. And the Pyramid of Love has similar height to the Pyramid of the Moon. Now, the Temple of Mother Earth is a little bit different to the other pyramids. It's not, they call it the Temple of Mother Earth because it's not a pyramid as such. It has a triangular face at the front, and then it has a kind of shape of a crescent moon, a little bit curved to the back, towards the back. So it's elongated rather than a pyramid shape with four sides to it. I'd already mentioned that the carbon dating of organic fossils found here reveals the site to be approximately 30,000 years old, which I've mentioned is raising some eyebrows across the world. But Sam thinks that this may not be it, that there may be other pyramids in the vicinity, 9 in total. I'm not sure why he's come up with the figure of 9. Maybe he has a reason for that, but he hasn't explained that yet. But there are other natural hills around the valley in its environ, which are definitely not pyramids and definitely not artificial hills, but their peaks are in relative alignment with this structure. So let's see some pictures of the pyramids. My slide will move forward. There we go. So in the top left corner here, we've got this picture is taken from the town of Visico, which is below the Pyramid of the Sun. To the right side, we can see that the Pyramid of Sun steeps up from the town itself, and right next door to it is the Pyramid of Love, just separated by a small valley. Then across the valley from there is the Pyramid of the Moon, which is shown in the photo to the bottom of the picture, and the Temple of Mother Earth behind. Now, if you shift your perspective and look at the picture of the top right, where you can see the front face of the Temple of Mother Earth, between the two hills there, you'll see that the Pyramid of Dragon, and I've made a triangular shape there to distinguish it from the hill that's behind it. So the Pyramid of Dragon is in a way slightly set out of the valley, where you see this the other four pyramids surrounding the valley. Let's have another look at that from a sky view. You'll see that let me get the laser pointer. So you'll see here is the Pyramid of the Sun, the top of the Pyramid of the Sun. Next to it is the Pyramid of Love. Then across the valley, over here, you have the Pyramid of the Moon. Then again, to the side of the valley, you have this kind of crescent moon shape in the front of it, which is triangular, is the Temple of Mother Earth. And then slightly outset of the valley is the Pyramid of the Dragon.
Susan, I think
Yes.
you might have to use your cursor. I don't see the laser. Just want to.
Oh, you didn't see the. Okay, let me go back over that. Yeah. Can you see the cursor?
Let me see. You're moving your cursor? I can't. Right now, I only see the screen.
The pen is now. I can't even turn the pen off now.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah. The pen is now on. So.
Okay. That's okay then. Yeah. Just want to bring it to your attention, but that's okay.
Okay. Now the pen is on. It won't go off. Oh. Okay. I'm not sure how to turn the pen off. Actually, it says laser pointed pen highlighted. Okay, here we go. There we go. Now you can see my cursor, right? Yeah?
No.
Can you see the cursor?
Could other people see the cursor? I don't.
No.
No.
No. Oh.
Yeah.
And you can't see the laser pen either?
No. No, I couldn't.
Pen?
No.
Yeah.
You can't see the pen? Oh, I can see my pen. You can't see my pen.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. We'll just try to follow what you said. Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's a shame, because I was pointing out all the pyramids exactly where they are. So let me go back to that. You'll see on the...
Someone was saying something?
You can read the labels pretty well, though.
You can read, okay, you can read the labels. Good. Okay, that's good. That's fine. So you'll see on the right side, Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and then on the left, top left side, Pyramid of the Moon. In between, then there's to the right side of that, the Temple of Mother Earth. And to the right side of that, outside of the valley, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Dragon. And then the Pyramid of Love is next to the Pyramid of the Sun. Have you got that?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay. Now, other phenomena that are in the valley, sites that are connected to the valley, are a number of tumuli. Now, these are definitely part of the pyramid complex, according to Sam. They're situated, one is situated to the northeast, and one is situated to the southeast of the complex. So it's not sure whether they are symmetrically arranged and what exactly their usage is, but definitely there's a lot of phenomena going on at them. So at Vratnica, which is to the northeast of the pyramid complex, Vratnica actually in the local language means gate. And this is it's been found to be an artificial conical hill standing 32 meters above the road level. And on this artificial hill, you can see these megalithic blocks of more than 10 tons, the largest being 24 tons. I mean, they're massive, absolutely massive. And beneath them are thick, thick layers of clay, almost a meter deep, and concrete, and then another layer of megalithic blocks. And so they kind of run in concentric circles around this, around this artificial hill to make this tumulus. Now, while they were investigating the site, they were drilling down to see what the hill was made of. And they kept on going through megalithic blocks and then concrete and clay and all this. And then suddenly they located a hollow space at 56 meters below the top, which went on for 3 whole meters. And so they have deduced that this could be a resonance chamber of some sort, because the phenomena that occur around this hill are quite extraordinary, in the sense that there's an electromagnetic beam of at least 28 kilohertz emerging from the top of it. And people who are sensitive to energy can definitely excuse me, feel a very, very strong vibration at the top. Now, on the other side, excuse me, is another tumulus called Ginje, and that's to the southeast of Vizikul. It's less explored, but it offers a very good view of the whole complex. And you can see right in the center of the picture the very sharply outlined picture of the pyramid of the sun. Now, because we're looking at it from the other side, can anybody see my cursor? No?
No, I can't.
You can't see the cursor, okay. No. So in the center is the pyramid of the sun. You can see a sharp triangular peak. To the right side, the hill that looks like a hill there, there's a sharp slope coming down. That's the Temple of Mother Earth. In front of the pyramid of the sun to the left is the Pyramid of Love. Again, it's all a bit blurred into the landscape because this photo was taken in the middle of the day when the light is not so sharp. And then in the to the left again, above the town on the left, you can see that's the Pyramid of the Dragon. But remember, wherever you go in Bosnia, you can't just trample around, wander here and there at your leisure. Because of the war in the 1990s, there are still a lot of landmines that have been unexploded. They marked the areas quite prominently, so you don't go there. But there are certain areas, the Temple of Mother Earth, for example, the backside of that, it's advised not to go there, that there might be unexploded landmines on there. Pyramid of the Moon is largely okay. There are areas, in fact, I took this photograph on the road leading up to the Pyramid of the Moon, which is quite, which you should, for example, the general rule in Bosnia is never ever go off the marked, off a path, off a road or a pathway. Don't go off into scrub or on small pathways through bracken and grasses and things like that. So this is something that you have to be aware of everywhere you go in Bosnia. So now we come on to the 9 factors that led Sam to conclude that they're authentic pyramids. So the first thing that he did was not just himself, but other scientists came from all around Europe and Bosnia, and especially the Balkan region, was to measure the cardinal alignment of the pyramid, because this is an indicator of an authentic pyramid, as is shown at the Giza complex and also the pyramids of China, that the faces of the pyramid will be aligned with the cardinal directions. Now, this Pyramid of the Sun has one of the most spot-on alignments, in fact, the most spot-on alignment recorded of any pyramid on Earth so far. more so than the Pyramid of Giza. So at 0 degrees, 0 minutes and 12 seconds, the north face was found to be aligned to the north direction. And you can see here I've written the figure of the Pyramid of Giza, which is just slightly out. I mean, even Pyramid of Giza is extremely highly aligned, but it's a few degrees away from the accuracy of the Pyramid of the Sun. And this is true for the Sun, Moon, and Dragon pyramids, all therefore for directions are, the four faces are aligned to the cardinal directions. So topographical alignments, the pyramid structures share alignments relative to each other. As you can see here, here's another diagram of how the pyramids are arranged. One of the most interesting phenomena is that the three main pyramids of Sun, Moon, and Dragon form an equilateral triangle when you mark a line from each of their apex to from one to the other. So this equilateral triangle has length of almost 2.2 kilometers each and angles of 60 degrees, as a true equilateral triangle has. Now, there are other alignments within the area, as I mentioned before, with natural hills that also line up in perfect order. And there are also other phenomena around the valley, like the confluence point of the river, and particularly high points in the valley, etc., that form other geometrical shapes. I thought I wouldn't go into this in too much detail now because we'd go off on a massive sidetrack, and it's something which is more interesting when I come into discussing my interpretation of the pyramid complex. But at the very center of this equilateral triangle is a Sufi temple. And here it is. This is the Sufi Temple of the Visakha Valley. And to the right, you'll see the gentleman to the left is the Sheikh. He's the head Sufi of this temple, and his son to the right, one of his sons to the right. And below, this is a ceremony. Well, it's not the ceremony, it's the interval between the ceremony where we're going to have food and discussion time. I was very kindly invited by the Sheikh to come to one of their ceremonies, which takes place on Thursdays and Sundays, twice a week, inside this building, which you can see on the top left, which is called the Teki House. Now, Sufism, which you may or may not know about, and I'll just brief you about it, is a branch of Islam. It's the esoteric branch of Islam, but it's different. The ceremonies are very different from a traditional Muslim ceremony that you would go to in a mosque, for example. You can see this Teki house, the temple on the left, is actually built with the same coordinates as the Kaaba stone in Mecca, and as the Sheikh tells us, it's the same has the same coordinates as Noah's Ark. So it's quite an interesting story there behind that as well. The ceremonies are largely comprised of very, very intense movements, along with short syllables that are sounded again and pronounced again and again and again and again. And these ceremonies can go on for hours, and it's certainly for me one of the most intense workouts I ever have had to do in my life. Certainly at a ceremony, it's the sacred movements combined with the sacred syllables cause immediate awareness to arise in one's mind. It changes one's state of consciousness very, very quickly and very, very clearly. So very interesting landmark to have at the center of this pyramid complex. Again, I'll come on to that more when I talk about the interpretation of the pyramids next time. So the third factor that Sam found is that the entire landscape around the Bisco Valley and the Pyramid Valley and the pyramids uses this aspect of 16 wind cartography that was used as a standard navigation tool throughout the centuries. So it extends to being used within the underlying design principles of huge architectural projects like the Bosnian pyramids and the complex of Giza in Egypt as well. And it embraces all the highest topographical spot heights within the valley. And you'll see here that they're aligned along this grid in a way that makes it more than just a chance that these are positioned in this way. The center of this grid you'll also see is the center of the Equilateral Triangle between the Pyramid of Sun, Moon, and Dragon, which is, of course, where we've just seen the Sufi Temple is located. Now, the fourth factor is that there are hollow spaces. They found hollow spaces within these pyramid structures using this ASTA multispectral satellite system. So they made these scans revealing these confined areas of low thermal inertia, indicating that the materials below the surface are cooling faster than those of the immediate surroundings. Now, these lower densities and increased porosity in internal cavities are expected to be found in such places, and they affect the rate at which heat is irradiated from the surface. So actually on the Pyramid of the Sun, you'll see a different biodiversity compared to hills of the nearby area, and they discovered that the soil temperatures are also higher. Now, the fifth factor is the composition of these blocks that were discovered on the surface of the Pyramid of the Sun. Now, you've got to realize that the entire structure, just like the many of the pyramids in Central America, are completely under vegetation. So after digging down about 1 meter of topsoil, you'll come to these very, very large concrete blocks. And they discovered that these concrete blocks, after accurate examinations and this electron microscope scanning, these experts discovered that they are definitely artificial, and they're made with this conglomerate-like geopolymer concrete, possibly made from the material that have been extracted from the tunnels, which I'll come on to again in a minute, the tunnels which run underneath the entire complex. So it makes sense, if you're extracting material, what do you do with all this material? Well, if you can form it into a block by using clay as a binder, then this is very efficient use of resourceful and efficient use of material. Now, this concrete has been tested to be of a superior quality to any concrete available today. It's harder, for example, than the concrete used, or it's stronger than the concrete used to make the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, they discovered. Also, the roots of the pine trees that are growing on the surface of the Pyramid of the Sun that were planted back in the 1960s by the Yugoslavian government, they do not penetrate this geopolymer concrete. They are, because it's so hard and so resistant, and also water has been unable to penetrate it. So this section of on the northern face of the Pyramid of the Sun that's been largely excavated shows that this conglomerate has been formed into these large concrete blocks, some weighing around 7 tons, and layered in four layers, along with concrete and a clay to bind it all together. So natural conglomerates do not weather so evenly, and perfectly flat sides would never have been made if this were just a natural geological formation that's millions of years old. And one can see that quartzite, which is an incredibly hard crystalline structure, pebbles, they do not protrude but have been seemingly sliced through. So literally you can see they've been cut in half on the sides of these concrete blocks. You'll find these concrete blocks also on the tumulus of Vratnica that I discussed with you earlier. And also, surprisingly, recent studies have found that these concrete blocks line the floor of the river. Now, the river runs through the whole valley of Visokol and comes to a confluence point in the center of the town. So the river Bosna and the river Fornica are join at that point. Now, the river Fornica comes from a mountain area just a bit further away, about an hour away from the complex. And one fellow has done a study that shows these concrete blocks being prevalent throughout the whole riverbed. And the question is why? Why would these large concrete blocks have been purposefully placed in the river? Or is the river even man-made? And why? Why would you need this river to be there as part of this complex? Now, we know that water is often associated with pyramids, and often you'll find that there is a river or some kind of water, whether underground or on the surface, running nearby a pyramid complex. And it's also been discovered that pyramids will suck water up from the ground, as in the case of the gold pyramid near Chicago, when the millionaire, I forget his name now, I actually went to visit the complex, actually with Dr. Karim, out in Chicago, on the outskirts of Chicago. And when they started building this pyramid, the gold pyramid, it was sucking up, as they were building it, water was starting to emerge from the ground. And they were like, wow, what's this going on here? So water is naturally something that a pyramid causes to appear. It sucks it up out of the ground. And so we don't know why these concrete blocks are so prevalent in the river, but it's a very interesting phenomenon. Also, gold is there's a lot of gold in this valley, and other precious and other precious metals as well. One of the most interesting phenomena of the whole pyramid complex is this. Are the electromagnetic and ultrasonic emissions that have been found by different types of scientists, physicists, electrical engineers, sound technicians, who all came to Bosnia after Sam discovered the pyramid and started measuring different electromagnetic phenomena on the pyramids and the tumuli of the valley. Now, by flying a drone over the Pyramid of the Sun, an electrical field was found at the start. This is the very interesting phenomena here. At the start, to have a radius of 4.5 meters, and then they measured it 21 meters higher than the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, where it was found that the beam itself it becomes wider. It becomes wider to 20 meters. And then again, a little further up, it becomes narrower again. So there's this kind of wave going like this out of the top of the, if you can see my hands, the wave going like this out of the top of the Pyramid of the Sun. Now, because they were measuring this field to get stronger, they found that it was getting stronger as it got further away from the surface. This goes against all the laws of natural Hertzian wave phenomena, which says that waves will decrease in strength as they get further away from their source. So it's been hypothesized that these are not electromagnetic fields, actually, but they are longitudinal waves, also called Tesla scalar waves, which is a wave phenomena that Tesla discovered more than 120 years ago now, but was stopped from expanding into the wider world at that point because he was promoting free energy. And of course, free energy was not going to be a good business plan for the likes of, I think it was JP Morgan company that was in charge of this project. So the scalar waves run on 0-point energy. They are much quicker than the speed of light being 300,000 kilometers per second, roughly. And they can move through the universe, even through cosmic bodies, without losing any energy. So whereas it takes 5 billion years at the speed of light for light to reach the center of the universe, scalar waves travel 10 billion times faster. So this is an ideal medium to transport energy and information. So it's been found that these unique waves coming out of the pyramid of the sun, the beam, as they call it, of the pyramid of the sun, is always orientated towards the sun itself. So at different times of day, you'll find the beam is always pointing towards the sun. Now, this has started a lot of speculation. Is it because there's some kind of communication with the heart of our solar system, which is the sun? Is there some kind of a portal there, some kind of doorway there that will carry information through the black hole center of the sun to other parts of the universe? These are questions which can only be hypotheses at this moment because we just don't have the answer to that. But it's fun to talk about anyway. Now, the ultrasonic frequency emissions ranging between 9 to 28 kilohertz, 10 meters in radius, emit from the top of the pyramid of the sun. And this is largely due to the amounts of quartz, which has a piezoelectric effect, being prevalent within the construction material of the pyramid itself. And a fellow from the UK, Dr. Harry Oldfield, he photographed the pyramids using this kind of equipment, a polycontrast interference photography equipment. And whereas over the natural hills, you can see the photograph at the bottom left, natural hills, the lines will be vertical. The magnetic fields will show as vertical. Above the pyramids, all of the pyramids and the Temple of Mother Earth, they are shown to be vertical lines coming out of the top of the pyramids. So sacred landscape. Now, this is something that I'll go into again in more detail when I'm discussing my interpretation of the pyramid complex next time. But just a couple of points here. So from the tumulus mound at Ginje, which is the opposite side from where the one we've been discussing, the Vratnica one is, so 5 kilometers southeast of Visoko, you can see that directly above the pyramid of the sun in the center, one can see the shape of the Cassiopeia constellation rise above the landscape on the winter solstice. Cassiopeia has an interesting story because she was very proud and arrogant, and she annoyed the god of the ocean, Poseidon, in Greek mythology, so that he warned that he would destroy her if she would not stop being so arrogant and obnoxious. And it's said that maybe this is something that forewarned the closure or the destruction of this pyramid complex, or slowing down of the pyramid complex to how we find it today, from where it may have been working as a full-on energy machine in a previous era. So the builders of the pyramids were using sacred geometrical aspects to build the pyramids, angles of the slope, terraces, etc., causing movement of the energy to occur, using aspects like pi, golden ratio, rational numbers, which are endless and alive rather than fixed numbers. This is something that I've used very extensively in my interpretation, so that's to be saved for next time. Now, one of the really, really interesting phenomena of this whole valley, which I've touched on briefly so far, is the tunnel system. So pyramid sites around the world tend to have tunnels and underground caverns beneath them. And 2.5 kilometers northwest from the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is the entrance to an underground tunnel system that spans over 2,000 meters so far. And Sam found this because he suspected that there should be tunnels, because in a pyramid complex you find tunnels. And so he started to ask around, and he asked especially the local kids, because kids discover everything. And they knew of a cave, and an entrance to a cave, and so he started exploring it, and he found that at the back of the cave it looked like there was a tunnel that had been blocked in, filled up with material. So he started to excavate, and he started to excavate more and more, and this is what happened. He found that there was a whole complex of tunnels that at some point in history, and nobody knows quite why, it had been filled in. And it's a phenomena that they can only assume would have been connected with the fact that at some point the machine, the energy system that was running because the tunnels are completely connected to the pyramid system, that they wanted to stop the machine from running because maybe it had got into the wrong hands. It's the only, again, it's a hypothesis. It's not sure why these tunnels would have been filled in. Anyway, one of the biggest jobs that where Sam is really focusing on is to excavate these tunnels and to get to the Pyramid of the Sun. So he's heading off at the direction whereas there are tunnels leading all over the place, he's actually heading off in the direction of the Pyramid of the Sun. So excavating those tunnels in particular, because he imagines that we're going to join the tunnels, the tunnels will join the Pyramid of the Sun at a certain point, and the other pyramids of the complex. 2 more sets of tunnels have been discovered in 2018 and 19 nearby, and it's thought that they're all connected to the same system. So inside the tunnels, there are interesting features. So behind, further tunnels were found behind these dry walls, as you can see in the photograph on the right. So this is an indicator of where more tunnels may be prevalent. And another very interesting phenomena are the huge megaliths weighing tons and tons in weight that have been found on various spots in the tunnels. Now, these are artificially made from a kind of ceramic, and they are always positioned where underground streams are flowing, which, as you know, as biogeometry students, are often producing harmful energy. But the effect of these large ceramic blocks, which contain a lot of crystal in them, is to neutralize this energy and to turn it into positive energy. So this is wherever you find these blocks, you will know that there's this that there's an underground stream passing below it, and so much so that the width of the block will be the width of the underground stream. So it's a very interesting phenomena. This one on the left, you can see this large block here on the left. It's thought that there's a huge quartz crystal in the middle of it, in the center of this ceramic block, so that the water streaming underneath will charge up the, will affect the crystal in the center of it, that will charge up the atoms of the ceramic block, creating, and they found that there's electromagnetic energy of 28 kilohertz also coming out of this block. When you put your hands on it, you can actually feel the energy coming out of it. It's really, really strong. So no radiation, no Wi-Fi signals, no other disturbances are present in the tunnel. There's always a perfect temperature of 12.5 degrees centigrade in there. Perfect for restoring health, for meditation. Very, very nice little chambers have been made with little benches along where you can go and sit and quietly meditate in various parts of the tunnels. There are more than 2,000 meters of tunnels now, so there are a lot of meditation chambers. And again, the phenomena of time in there is extraordinary. You'll think you've been in there for 20 minutes and you've been in there for more than an hour and a half or something. Really, time has no meaning inside the tunnels. Plus, the other phenomena that's very interesting is that the level of negative ions per cubic centimeter are the highest ever recorded at 40,000 megapascals. And they get higher the further you go into the tunnels. The air quality gets better the further you go into the tunnels. Now, again, this is opposite from anything we would imagine, like in mine shafts, where the further you go in, the worse the air gets, and et cetera, et cetera. But here, the air gets better and better. Now, Sam says this is because they didn't make the floorways even. They made a kind of bumpy surface on the floorways, which created a natural way for air to purify as it moved along the corridors. So here are some photos of the pyramids. You'll see on the top left is walking up the Pyramid of the Dragon. So you see it's all covered in forest and a steep slope going up the forest to the top. In the top center is a group of people, volunteers, who are working on the ceramic blocks, uncovering the ceramic blocks on the Pyramid of the Sun. Now, because a lot of the Pyramid of the Sun is owned by private, or is in private ownership, they cannot just dig anywhere. They can only dig where the foundation has been able to purchase the land. So there are several areas now where they've managed to purchase the land, and so they're concentrating on clearing the topsoil off those areas. You'll see on the top right here, Sam in the middle with the concrete blocks. His hand is resting on the concrete blocks. These are on the same north face of the Pyramid of the Sun, where the volunteers are working in the central picture. In the middle on the right is a picture of the sunset on the summer solstice from the Pyramid of the Sun. And below, this is also a view from the Pyramid of the Sun to the south side, where you'll see a plateau on the sort of central right area. The front is the Pyramid of the Love, and then this is an access plateau that comes into the back of it. The Pyramid of Love is a very it has a very, very gentle energy. It's ironically called the Pyramid of Love, but it's very, very soft energy there. Really, when somebody told me that, I'm like, yeah. And when I went there, I was like, my goodness, it's true. It's really, really true. Behind that, you can see the Temple of Mother Earth, the big green elongated structure in the middle. Then behind that, you can just see the Pyramid of Dragon, and to the left, you can see the Pyramid of the Moon. So actually, all the 5 pyramids, except for the Pyramid of the Sun, which I'm standing on here, can be seen in this photo. In the middle left photo, the middle left photo shows the terraces on the Pyramid of the Moon, which are also very interesting because they spiral up the Pyramid of the Moon. And there are 3 levels to these terraces. The lower one slopes inwards, the middle one slopes, it doesn't slope at all, it's flat, and the one to the top slopes outwards. So there are 3 different terraces sloping at 8 degrees sorry, the two terraces are sloping at 8 degrees, one inwards and one outwards, and the one in the center is straight. And again, Sam has a lot of ideas as to what this this means regarding sacred geometry and the Fibonacci spiral and phi ratio. We'll come on to that next time, because it involves my interpretation of the pyramid complex as well. Now, the bottom left corner this is a lovely crystal mandala that's been created on the pyramid of the dragon. And this is very, very special, actually. There are so many crystals in Bosnia that here, I mean, they're like stones, yeah? So they've created a carpet of crystals out of this, in this area. And these wonderful, huge, large crystals form this wonderful mandala, which is very powerful and very nice to go and meditate at, or stand around or move around the labyrinth. So let's see, how is this project pushing ahead? More and more volunteers are coming year by year to work on what Sam and other people describe as the most transparent archaeological site in the world, where everyone and anyone is free to access all the sites. This is very unusual in archaeology. I mean, normally you have to have a background in the education, some kind of degree in archaeology in order to be on a site. But he believes that this site belongs to the world and that it should be also shared and discovered by people from all over the world. And indeed, the volunteers are coming from all 4 corners of the globe with such a fantastic energy and such a wonderful intention. People who are generally attracted to the Bosnian pyramids are spiritually minded, open-minded, and are there for positive reasons. Of course, there have been people coming to the detriment of the project, in the sense that they come to find fault with the project and to see what may be wrong with Sam's hypothesis, etc. But these are few and far between. And as Sam says, I've asked him on several occasions, I'm like, well, how do you deal with these people when they come along with their menacing attitudes? And he says, I don't need to do anything. He said, the pyramid simply spits them out. I thought that was very nice. They can't stay here because the pyramid energy is too strong and it won't allow them to be here. I mean, because this is a project which is potentially so powerful, I mean, he's had governments and military and people coming to investigate the site. You know, what's the potential to use the power of this site for negative purposes, for example, for military or for you know, self-gain. And again, he answers, I said, you know, how do you deal with that? He answers again, you know, well, the pyramid simply spits them out. They can't stay here. So this is very nice, a nice way of looking at it. So the people who are hanging around Bosnia and coming every summer, and the volunteers who arrive, are really very congenial and people who are in the frame of mind to discover, and also not to put blocks or filters on the various hypotheses, which some of them are really, really wacky. I mean, you know, some of the ideas that come out of people in Bosnia are stuff to make our head spin. And I think that when you go to Bosnia, and certainly I talk about myself here, because we're all trained or conditioned in a certain way to believe that this is how the history of the world is, or hey, this is how things are. You know, we have to take a very, very open-minded attitude here and just say, okay, it could be possible. I don't know, but it could be possible. So what are the volunteers doing? The volunteers are continuing to uncover more of the meter of top layer of soil on the Pyramid of the Sun. Some work is going on the Pyramid of the Moon, but less. And definitely the most important project that they're working on is the excavation of the filler material from the tunnels. And this is Sam's focus. as I mentioned earlier, this is his focus is to to connect the tunnels with the tunnels that have been discovered through LIDAR scanning underneath the pyramid of the sun. In fact, they were discovered at 280 meters below the pyramid of the sun, which is about the height of where the existing tunnels stand. So it's expected that if he goes straight, he's going to be able to connect to those tunnels which are underneath the pyramid of the sun. Also working on other sites around the valley, such as the tumulus at Vratnica, as well as investigating the effect of the pyramid and the tunnel energy by measuring bioenergy factors on humans after experiencing the pyramids and the tunnels. So they have little booths available outside the tunnels where you can have your chakras tested before you go in and then after you come out of the tunnels, as well as like if you have some health issue, like for example sugar diseases, they test your glucose level before and after, and in fact it's been very commonly discovered that people with high sugar levels will go in with a number of around 10 and then come out with around 5, which is extraordinary after just 1 hour of being in the tunnels. Then generally, as I mentioned, the kind of people who are coming more and more who are coming to the complex every year, it's a known phenomenon between people who've been coming regularly, that the more people who are coming, because it's like a kind of collective consciousness is interacting with the environment and willing the complex to activate. Yeah, so there's this interaction, of course, between the consciousness of people and the environment itself. So as people shine their perspectives onto the environment, so the environment itself is shifting and changing. And also, the amount of support, global networking as well, that people are taking away from the complex with them. And like I'm talking to you about it today, raising people's awareness of the possibilities. I mean, when it comes to Bosnia, it's like, you just have to stay so open-minded. It's like, well, why not? Why not? Yeah. So here are some pictures. Here's the Ravne Park. This is one of Sam's personal undergoings. He bought this area of land just next to the entrance to the tunnels some years back. And he's holding conferences, festivals, gatherings at key times of the year, and also creating a park where artists can display their work, interactive devices like labyrinths, stone sculptures, and last year, for example, we had a woman set up a kiln and we could take the clay out of the side of the mountain and make pottery. So all sorts of things go on in the Ravne Park, and it's great fun in the summer. People gather there every evening, and there's music and dance and gathering, togetherness, community. It's a wonderful atmosphere. It really is. I've been going 3 years now, 3 years running at the time of the sun solstice, which is one of the people say about the pyramid complex. So at first they were very skeptical. They couldn't believe that the world's largest pyramids were right on their doorstep, because of course they're covered in soil and vegetation. They couldn't see them like they would imagine a pyramid to look like. Yeah. But now they've seen the world's response and how much has happened in the 15 years since Sam discovered them. They are very optimistic and also have discovered and found for themselves how they have been able to set up business around this, great for tourism, setting up hotels, little shops, stalls around the Ravne Park and the tunnel area. and becoming guides, working for the foundation, etc. A lot of jobs available for people around the pyramid complex. And plus, of course, it's encouraging people to come from abroad and settle in Bosnia. So you have a lot of large organizations that are setting up buildings there for their groups to come year by year, from Malaysia, from Singapore in particular. They've been setting up various places for their groups to gather when they come. Then the government is giving some money towards the project now, not that much, but some funding. But most of the project is still funded from Sam's own pocket and from revenues that are raised through the project itself. So the very big question, this is the biggest question of all, is what is the purpose of the Bosnian pyramids? And there's definitely no answer to this question at this point. But a lot of hypotheses, from huge energy machine, advanced technological device, protective shield for the planet, galactic GPS marker, cosmic communication device. I mean, you name it, there are all sorts of ideas coming out of the bag. But really, I think the most realistic answer at the moment, according to the geographical and geological alignments in the area, as I mentioned to you earlier, where there are underground streams, and then there'll be a quartz crystal, and then there'll be an artificial ceramic block put upon it to transform the energy from negative to positive, and then that creates a kind of a strong electromagnetic energy. This kind of phenomenon you'll see all over the valley. For example, it's said, in fact, it was Dr. Karim who said that there's an iron plate which hasn't been discovered yet, but he said there must be an iron plate well below the pyramid of the sun, which is interacting with hollow spaces. Water will be below the iron plate, water will be above the iron plate, and then the interaction of this energetic flow will be amplified by the pyramid standing on top of it, causing this very strong beam to be emerging from the top of the pyramid of the sun. So geological and geographical alignments are really the key at the moment to a kind of rational understanding of the project, because it's also discovered that it has a very, very beneficial effect on our health, and a beneficial effect on water, and the quality of the crops and the water that are in the environment around it. So, for example, for our natural state of being, the pyramids produce the best electromagnetic field, which of course is screwed up now for us because there are so many interferences in our environment, as we know from biogeometry. So it produces the perfect electromagnetic field for us to exist within. The best ultrasonic frequency of 28 kilohertz, which is a meditation frequency, and the Schumann resonance at its natural resonance of 7.83 hertz, which is present in the tunnels as well. Our natural frequency and the natural frequency of the planet. Almost nowhere on Earth now can we find this natural frequency, because we have such a distorted environment due to all the different electrical equipments and Wi-Fi's, etc., in our atmosphere. So this Schumann resonance has a very noticeable effect on our body at a cellular level. So in the tunnels, there's, as I mentioned earlier, a high concentration of negative ions to raise the level of oxygen in our body, and dust is erased from the atmosphere. Bacteria and viruses cannot exist, no cosmic radiation, underground natural radioactivity levels are 10 times lower. The harmful effect of underground water streams is reversed, as I've mentioned, and the mobile phone signals and Wi-Fi are not present. So while you're in the tunnels or on the pyramids, it's having an extremely positive effect on your body. And I have experienced this myself. Definitely every single time I've been to Bosnia, I come away healthier within 1 week or 2 weeks. I am definitely feeling better. So again, the fantastic water that's available in the tunnels. In fact, they're bottling it as pyramid water. No viruses, no bacteria, vibrating very highly, and was measured by Dr. Emoto over in Japan before he passed away as having a perfect crystalline structure. We've already discussed the world history changing factor. The sheer age of the complex is making us question history. Sam says that history should be regarded as going in cycles rather than a linear evolution, that we've had many advanced civilizations in the past, and this is his discovery after years of going to these ancient sites. He says that we have had countless times when we've been highly technologically advanced, but have destroyed the system again and again and started from scratch. So our history as we know it may not be the history as it actually is. And this is what Bosnia is really provoking. So I'm going to leave you here with food for thought. Now, one of the stones discovered inside the tunnels was scratched with runic symbols, which, as you may or may not know, is a very ancient language. It's only close to an ancient Proto-Hungarian language now, and there are some people who can translate it. Anyway, the runic symbols found on this stone inside the tunnels translate to: the gateway has been closed. We will have to stay, defend ourselves, and conquer until the cosmic gate is open again. This is quite a piece of information. Here's a nice old photo of the Pyramid of Sun on the right and the Pyramid of Love to the left. The sides of the pyramids quite sharply exposed there. And just a couple of pages of photos here that I wanted to show you. There's some lovely other places around Bosnia, not far from Visoko. This structure on the left, this pillar capped by a pyramid and a sphere with all these spirals and dragons on it, has been found in the middle of a forest, about an hour away from Visoko. And then these stechak, these in the top and middle of the page. These are not graves, as you might think, but have some other, again, unknown purpose. They've got these spiral designs on them and these very defined pentagonal structures at the end. Again, there are different hypotheses as to what they may be. At the bottom in the middle is a Bogomil castle. I mentioned Bogomils at the start of this talk. And to the right are these huge stone balls, which are found in a valley a couple of hours away from Visoko. I mean, many of these huge stone balls are found in this valley, and they're very highly energized. So this is a popular tour to go on from Visoko. The Sarajevo town itself, I mentioned earlier this influence, this Islamic influence. So it's got these old streets and these little mosques and these sort of arty shops and antique shops and little restaurants. It's a very nice place. And here I am in the middle with a couple of friends having a lunch somewhere in Sarajevo. So I'll leave you with that. Next time, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go much deeper into other aspects, how I myself have interpreted the Bosnian pyramids, how the information that I need to find has been emerging. Because when I met Sam and he invited me to make a film on the Bosnian pyramids, he wanted me particularly to make a film with a difference. He'd seen a film that I made in Nepal in 2005. And this film is actually based on the shape of a pyramid. And I've embedded sacred geometry in the structure of the film itself, so that it's a kind of blind advertising of sacred geometry when you watch the film. You don't know that you are having a pyramid shape impressed upon you, but it is holding all the sacred geometrical features and also the pyramid power within the film itself. And that's what I intended anyway. And this is what I have intended for my Bosnian film as well. And so the first thing that I had to do has been to create some kind of structure, some kind of shape that will help me to decode the information that I've absorbed from the Bosnian pyramids. So it's a two-way thing. I've absorbed information and I've spewed it out in shape and form in that sense. And after 2 years of going to Bosnia, or after going to Bosnia twice rather, I came up bit by bit. It doesn't happen to me immediately, but bit by bit I came up with this picture, the Crystal of Time. Now it's looking very small on your screen, but the entire length of the picture is 7 feet by 2.5 feet. So it's quite large. It's really quite large. And this is what captured the attention of Dr. Ibrahim Karim, and why he invited me to come and discuss this picture with his special topics discussion in Victoria last year. So next time I will be telling you all about the meaning of this picture, as well as how it relates to Bosnia and why I included the factors that I included into this picture, not just why, but how it occurred as well. So thank you very much, and I'll hand back over to you, Pei.
Thank you so much, Susan.
I'm sorry I've gone a bit over my time. I just looked at the time.
No problem, no problem. We don't even notice, I think. Yes, thank you so much. It was
You're welcome.
fantastic.
Thank you.
And are there questions from the other people, from the audience? Actually, there is one from Sharon on the chat. She said, were they 9 points that were used to establish there was a pyramid? She only wrote down 8. So.
Oh, the 9th point. Well, it depends which point she already wrote down. Would you like me to go back? You know what I can do? I can make this presentation available to you afterwards. Would you like that? Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yes.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That would be useful. Maybe, do you have a website or something, or I can send it to you, Pei, and you can send it out to the group?
No. So what we do is, since this one is recorded, I will just first give it to you, and then I will post the link so that people can watch it.
Okay. I would love to answer the question, but if I don't know which 8 she's already written down, it would be difficult for me to.
If you have the slide.
Okay, somebody wrote it's the tunnel system was the one.
The tunnel system, okay.
Yeah, it was the tunnel system.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Okay, that's good. And there's another one from Laura. Are you able to see the chat?
I am, yes. I'm just looking at. I'm looking at. There are some just general ones.
Yeah. 7:56 p.m. from Don Bauer.
Oh no, I don't have that one. I only have from 8:06.
Oh, okay. So I'll read it to you then.
Yes, please.
The question is, have any biogeometry type measurements been taken of the region of the various structures?
That I do not know, but I'm sure that probably somebody has come along with their biogeometry equipment and done it. I actually don't know the answer to that question. Okay. I know that Dr. Karim went very early on to the complex. Early on means, you know, a number of years ago. I'm not sure which year exactly he went, but I would imagine that he would have taken biogeometry measurements in the region as well.
Wow.
I wonder how we find that out. I could ask him.
Yeah, ask him.
If he's specifically taken any measurements. Yeah, I'll ask him.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And I could tell you that next time. Yeah.
Okay. You also mentioned that he said that there should be a metal or iron plate under the pyramid of the sun, which hasn't been discovered yet. I'm
wondering if it hasn't been discovered yet, or it certainly hasn't been discovered actually, like touch it, taste it, feel it. But there's been a lot of LIDAR scanning taking place in the valley. So it may be that they have seen that a large object is there, but they don't know exactly what it is. And that could be the iron plate that Karim is referring to. It's a very important process that there's underground water streams that are interacting with an iron plate, that are interacting with hollow spaces, and then water on top of that, and then the pyramid structure on top of that, and all the piezoelectric effect from the crystals in these, which are inside the conglomerate, the geopolymer composition of the concrete blocks. So you see, all these things create a result here, create an energetic result. So this very skillful design of the landscape, whether through natural and, you know, shifting. Maybe we don't know if the river was shifted there, like I told you earlier, and I showed you the photo of the concrete blocks in the river. Was the river actually naturally there, or was it shifted there? We don't know. But you would need this sandwich of water to create this energy structure, or to complete the whole process.
Yes.
So yeah.
I actually wondered, you sometimes lead tour groups, right? Will you consider leading a tour for biogeometry students to go there?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Oh, to go to Bosnia.
Yes.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, yes, absolutely. Why not? It would be a great pleasure to have a group of people come with their instruments and to go around to the different areas and to shine another perspective onto the valley, because this is what the complex is doing. It's encouraging people from all different different aspects to come and measure in their own way, to measure the phenomena. And Sam is very, very keen on scientific analysis, and you know, not just sort of airy-fairy kind of, you know, fanciful thinking, but actually to measure the scientific qualities of the place. So a group of biogeometry students would add phenomenally to the knowledge already there. I don't know if other biogeometry students have come yet, so I can't answer that question, but I'll try and find out by the next session. But that would be lovely if people wanted to come.
I'll see.
To do a journey.
And do let us know if you find out more from Dr. Karim.
Yes, I will.
About the pyramid.
I will see.
There's another remark from Rick. He said that the blocks sure sound like orgonite that seem to have the same effect.
Yeah, definitely. Correct.
Okay, I think that's all. If no one else have any questions or comments,
you can always message me later. You know, if questions come up, do either through Pei or through yourself or whoever, you know.
How would you like to be contacted? Through email or email? Okay. So I will publish your email in the email that I sent out. Okay, all right, that's great. And I think that's time. And thank you very much. Yeah, thank you everyone for being here, sharing this. And we'll see you in a month. So we won't have the regular meeting on the third week of Wednesday. So the next one is March 4th, the first Wednesday of March. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.
Good night. Good morning.
Oh.
Good night. Good morning.
Okay. Okay, I'm ending it for.